Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. You are listening to Holding Down the Fort with Alejandro Soto. That's me, your host, your guide, your captain, your Sherpa up the mountain. Holy cow, in this episode... My stupid intro actually just got real, because in this episode with my good friend Hailey, she talks about the climbing the mountain of childbirth, and so I am not your Sherpa up that mountain. Let's let her be your Sherpa this time. Because I don't know, I know a bit more about birthing babies after this conversation, but I still feel like I know so very little about that whole thing that we call humans being born. It's pretty crazy. It's a pretty crazy thing that happens. If you didn't know, it's wild that humans, like, we pop out of other humans. And maybe more than pop out sometimes are more than popped out. So yeah, this episode is with my good friend, an old friend, and still a dear compatriot to this day, Hailey. I'm going to call her Hailey Marie because that's her musical name. She's been married since we were back in our school days, and I'm not 100% sure that I can properly pronounce Evan's last name, and now Hailey's last name too. So I'm not going to try until I have been given a crash course on how to properly say that word. So Hailey Marie is a musician. She's a singer here in Fort Wayne, has been for many years. She's known for doing the home birth thing that we really get into. I'm not going to touch on that anymore because she goes into it in the episode and does a much better job of talking about that than I ever could. So let's get into the business. What have I got coming up after this episode is released? It's coming out on a Tuesday. I'm not sure what the date is. I'm not looking at a calendar. But with the Saturday of May 18th, I'll be singing and playing guitar at the Bar Street Farmers Market, downtown Fort Wayne. That's from 9 to 1. My friend Murky is going to be joining me. She'll be playing during my set breaks, so that'll be really awesome. Come on down to the Farmers Market on Saturday. And then that same day, May 18th, I'll be playing at the Healing Hands Night Market in the evening. Murky's also going to be joining me. She'll be doing a full set in the evening at the night market. And my friend K. Edward Smith is going to be playing as well. He was an early guest on the show. I think he might have been episode 3, if I do remember correctly. So yeah, go and check that out. That was a really good episode. I enjoyed talking to Kyle, Mr. K. Edward Smith. He'll be down at the night market playing some songs, which I'm really looking forward to. I haven't gotten to see him play live, which I am rather ashamed of. So I had to book him on a show with me to actually get a chance to see his set. No, that's me making an excuse. But it's going to be really good. So Saturday, May 18th, in the morning, I'm at the farmer's market. In the night, I'm at the night market. And then June 2nd will be the next ecstatic dance. I'll be doing the warm-up. We'll do some yoga stretches, get our bodies limbered up before the dance. I'll be making the music mix for that as well. So come on and hang out, get groovy at the Hippy Dippy Dance Party at the Dance Collective. Warm-up starts at 6, dance starts at 6:30, and that's at the Dance Collective in downtown Fort Wayne. Same building as the Cinema Center, if you don't quite know where that's at. That should hopefully give you a landmark. And then after that, I'll be at Soul Fest. Massive Music is going to be providing an auxiliary stage out. I think we'll be doing it out by the lake area. That's by the Nature Center. I'm talking to some people about getting acts booked for that. It'll be like a whole day shindig. I'll play a set in there. We'll see who all I can get on the deal for that. But yeah, Soul Fest, it's pretty neat. It's a concert, a live music concert to support the parks here in town, mainly Fox Island Park. My phone's dinging. Sorry about that. That's unprofessional, but I'm going to leave it in. let's see, Soulfest. It's to support Fox Island. A couple years ago, a really big storm blew through and knocked down a whole bunch of trees. A couple years ago, after Soulfest went down, they were able to buy a bunch of like little saplings from the DNR and get those put in the ground. But now they need some help to make sure that they actually survive. I think they need to do some treating of the area, maybe some sort of chemical treatment. I'm hoping it's for invasives. If you know anything about the Japanese honeysuckle, that is an invasive plant here in the Northeast Indiana area, it's gnarly. It's hard to kill. You got to use hard chemicals. Like, you can't just chop it down. It'll grow back. I talked to a fella who owns some property out in Roanoke recently, and he like made his own concoction to paint on the stumps of the honeysuckle, because like the stuff that they sell in the store just wasn't doing the trick. So yeah, the stories of him having to, the work he has to do to take out these invasive plants is crazy. So I imagine that there are those invasive plants in the parks as well, and getting rid of those takes supplies, it takes people, it takes time, and the park needs our support to make that happen. I had a meeting this afternoon with the Soulfest event organizers, and they told me that the park gets financial support from the government to pay a worker to be there. Like, they'll pay the wages for a DNR rep to be at the park, I think. And anything past that is up to the park and up to the community to provide. So like, I guess they don't get our tax dollars to put new fans in the nature center. So that's one of the goals that is being set forth for this year's Soulfest, is to get some fans in the nature center at Matea Park, which is where the event is going to be. And yeah, I think that anything the musicians and the community can do to support the endeavors of the groups that are trying to make nature accessible to us, like we should do it, right? So buy a ticket to Soulfest. I'm volunteering my time. I might get a small stipend to cover my gas, but for the most part, we're volunteering to make this happen, to pull this together. So what you can do to support the cause as well is buy a ticket. Just show up. That's what we need to make all this happen. Join us for the party, and holy cow, by hanging out at the park and listening to really good music, we can help improve the parks. That's some magic, guys. I think that's true life magic, as close as I've found to it. So buy a ticket to Soulfest. I'll see if I can get a link in the show notes. I did not plan on talking about it for this long, but I am looking forward to it. So if there's a link to tickets that I can get yet, that will be below. That's what I got coming up. So let's get on into this episode with my good friend Hailey Marie. Shout out to Los Lemons for the intro song. I often forget to mention that, but thank you, Victor, and all the boys at Los Lemons for letting me use their song Slowed Down as the intro music each time. I don't always give him a shout out, and I feel very guilty about that. Also, thanks to Tom from Indiana Tea. I'm going to consider him the official sponsor of the show because he keeps giving me free tea to drink with my guests on the podcast. And so yeah, Tom rocks. Tom's the guy. He's one of my faves. So I hope you enjoy cracking open a cold bottle of Indiana tea while you listen to this episode of Holding Down the Fort with my good friend Hailey Marie. Good right off the bat. Oh, and of course from my seat, this leaf is right in the way of where I'm trying to be sneaky and look. That's why I'm just
like move this.
It's fine. Like it looks all good. I've double tested it, but it's just funny that like I'm trying. This is why I explain how I try to be sneaky, because I'm not able to be sneaky. Like I want to. I would love to be like a super spy and be able to like sneak into compounds and like get the bad guy.
Get the bad guy. Get the loot.
But I like never get away with anything. So.
Me, neither. It keeps you honest.
Yeah.
It keeps you honest. Because I am that person that always gets caught too. I learned the hard way. As you know, my little short, brief criminal history when I was younger.
I don't know if I know about that.
Well, I was just a bit of a klepto.
Did you get?
Remember, I was always
us stealing
kleptoing
garden gnomes together.
Yep.
I went through a little.
Oh, that's so fun! I was telling
period.
Evan about gnoming, dude.
Oh, I was talking about that recently, like within the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
I was telling someone about like, we went gnoming. Like, what's that? Evan... Like, well, you just drive around with your friends.
Steal
from
gnomes.
High school and look for garden gnomes in front yards and take them. Like
so
it's a classic Midwestern.
When he was
pastime.
in high school, he had what was called like the swoop troop, I guess. And so he said like him and some friends would go and steal any lawn ornaments though.
Oh, we were selective. We
only wanted the gnomes.
Yeah. We wanted the good shit.
Exactly. But they like stole hundreds and it ended up making the news. And so they like took them to the woods and smashed them all because they were scared.
Oh no.
But he was telling me about that and I was like, dude, we would go and scope out which houses have gnomes during the day and then like you go back and take them at night.
Under the cover of street lamps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fun. I remember gnoming.
And I remember after we did that one night, we ended up putting them all at my house. That was where we ended up after our criminal debauchery was at my place. Yep. And we just set them all out on the back patio for like my parents to wake up to in the morning, like all these gnomes staring at the back.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
And like, I don't think I got any more than an ow, what's that? And I'm like, garden gnomes.
You're like, that's about par for the course.
That's my kid.
That's my boy.
Even better was like now over the years, they have slowly disappeared from my yard as well. Like,
hey, it all comes full
easy
circle.
Come, easy go.
Easy come, easy go.
So, Hailey,
so funny.
Welcome to the show.
Thank
this
you.
Is rad.
Dude, this is so
cool.
rad. I know, we were just talking about how long we've known each other. About 14 years, something like that.
Around there.
Crazy.
They're doing construction on the apartment downstairs. So the plug-in for Amanda's episode did a really good job of taking out that lawnmower. So,
nice. So this should be
like,
nothing.
I think it'll be okay with this. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
But I'm just putting it out there. If anyone hears that hammering sound, it's the construction downstairs.
It's the podcast law.
Yeah, it's Duncan's law of podcasting.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was neat. We were saying how we've known each other for a long time, but like for the last decade have not really encountered each other while doing very similar things in life. Like maybe not from the outside, it seems like that. Well, in music, we're both practicing musicians.
We're both like in tune.
Yeah, try to be.
There's just like, I always say kindred spirits, but like, you just know who your people are. And I feel like, our lives had just kind of ridden this parallel path for years. And so we've seen each other in and out. I remember seeing you at the rail, or just anytime I saw you, it was like,
yeah, I came to see your show. You performed one time, and I was like, I gotta go see that.
Yeah.
That was a real funny night. I remember
Was it at the rail?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went by myself, was sitting at the bar before the show, and like struck up a conversation with the girl that was sitting next to me, just like because I wanted to talk to someone. I was bored.
Totally. You were
and
there
she
alone.
like seemed kind of standoffish at first, but then like I just was talking to a person because I was bored.
Yeah.
She like asked me if I was from somewhere else. I'm like, no, I'm a Fort Wayne person, but I get that a lot. And then as soon as the show started, like the lights went down, I was like, okay, I gotta go. My friend's playing. Bye. I just like totally dipped and went to stand right at the front of the stage to see you play, because that's why I was fucking there, not to talk to somebody.
So I wonder, was that the show where I was pregnant then? At the rail?
I don't think so.
Okay. Because
I would have remembered that.
Yeah. Well, I was like 36 weeks or something.
Okay, I would have remembered that.
Something crazy.
No, you were not that pregnant.
I just remember I had no breath support.
Oh my
I was
God.
like,
I'm impressed you even got up those stairs onto that stage with
oh,
that much of a baby
yeah.
inside you.
Yep.
Jeez.
I think we were all impressed.
Maybe you most of
It's
all.
like my last show at the Rail. I was like, I need to perform first, so I need to start at like
yeah.
9:30, and then
Uh-huh.
I'm leaving.
And I'm done. Yeah.
And I'm leaving. Yeah.
That's
We're gonna
good.
perform for like 45 minutes, and that's it.
I mean, even doing 45 minutes in that state blows my mind. Like,
Yeah.
when pregnant people do anything, even slightly exerting,
So
I'm just
sick.
like hardcore. That is the most. That is
Honestly,
like the most
yeah.
hardcore mode
It
of
is
humaning
amazing.
out there
Yeah.
that there is. Because you could just stay home and sit on the couch, and no
Yeah.
one would see anything wrong with that.
Totally.
Like, yeah, you're growing a human, and
Yeah.
anyone who sees anything wrong with that, fuck them. Like,
Totally.
bullshit. So
No, but I
anytime a
remember-
pregnant person does something, like my aunt Lore climbed we were only able to get halfway up the pyramid of the moon, but like full on
What?
pregnant. I didn't think she was going. Like, I like went straight up the thing because
Yeah.
I was like young and fit
Where
and
was
spry.
this?
Mexico City. This is
Oh,
in
okay.
Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And I like get to the top and I like turn around and Lore is like 3 steps behind me, like fully pregnant
"Yep,
with
I'm here."
child. And I'm like, what? You did that? He's like, yeah, it's a good view. This is great. I'm like, what? I'm
Yeah.
winded. I'm a young man.
Yeah, for real though, the breath support is not there when you're.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's like the 2 things that you see yourself as being known for, your 2 personally most notable traits, and that extends
Yeah.
over being an in-tune musician and a forward-minded birth giver. So
Yeah.
is that legit?
Yeah, totally. Like I've always been a musician, a singer. I mean, yeah, I really don't play instruments anymore. I mostly just sing, but I've been singing as long as I can remember. Yeah, so I can kind of start with the origins of that.
Yeah,
If
go
that
for
works.
it. Yeah, take it from the beginning, from the top.
Yeah. So like I said, as long as I can remember, I've always sang. And it was always what I wanted to do. Like there was just not really another option. And I never thought of it as being, I don't know, like improbable or impossible or anything until I specifically remember I was in 4th or 5th grade and we had to write a paper on what we wanted to do when we grew up. And so I was like, yeah, I want to be a singer. I've always wanted to do this. And we had to like draw a picture with it. And I drew like a picture of me in a triangle dress, it's like with 3 eyelashes on each eye, those kid drawings. And I was holding a microphone and singing. And I always like looked up to like Alicia Keys, like Destiny's Child was big when I was young. And just a lot of like Christina Aguilera, like a lot of really powerful female vocalists. And I was like, that is my freaking calling. That's what I want to do. And then, yeah, the teacher, I remember she kept me after class to talk to me about my assignment. And she had accused me of not taking it seriously.
What?
Like she was like, hey, I was like hoping you would, let us know like what you actually want to do and like take it seriously. I don't think this is what you really want to do. And I remember it was like
That's
shot to the heart.
heart-crushing.
I was like, actually, I 100% took it seriously, like unabashedly, unapologetically, just took it 100% seriously. And I was like, no, that is really what I want to be when I grow up. And I remember I was like heartbroken. I was like,
yeah.
And that, from that moment on, it had planted that seed of impossibility in my mind, because then I realized like maybe that's not a good idea, or maybe it's not possible, or maybe it's not. And it, me and my child like wonder and ambition and everything, and I felt like it just kind of shut it down. And so then from that moment on, I never considered that I could be a singer as my main thing. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good hobby to have, but it's not a good career that will provide money or pay the bills or
Dang,
excuse
that
me, whatever.
Sucks. That sucks, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I like never heard that story about you before.
Yeah.
And like I mean, from working with kids and playing music and
Oh, I know
seeing
what
the unbridled, raw, burning passion for music in
Yeah.
a fourth grader's eyes,
Mm-hmm.
like to hear that a conscious, grown human thought
A
it
teacher
necessary to
who's
talk
supposed
to
to
you after class
cultivate
about
like
that. Yeah,
your passion and
no.
your vision and your dreams and really foster them and
Yeah.
encourage them and to like shoot
Yeah.
that down. Yeah. And so I still, obviously, I still to this day, like that kind of stuck with me. Um, and so we met, you and I, in choir. And
Hmm.
so I
Hmm.
always sang. I was like, well, if I can't do it for a living, I'm just gonna live to do it. That's
Yeah,
okay.
man. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So then, like, singing in high school choir and everything, I've always, well, at that time, I had taught myself guitar, piano, ukulele because I was like, okay, I can sing, but I really need something to like accompany it. And so I
Hmm.
just taught
Hmm.
myself like basic chords.
Yeah, yeah.
And my dad's a guitar player, and actually, like, most of my family are musicians, and I come from like a lineage of musicians because my grandfather was a singer, and it's just like it's in
Cool.
my blood, it's in my
Yeah.
bones, and yeah. And so then going to college though, I was like, well, it's not possible, so I'm just gonna like do psychology and then I'll just sing on the side.
Hmm.
And so like I still sang at home and like played piano and I'd write my own songs and everything, and um super basic songs. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to claim to be some I don't know.
Hmm.
But it was fun and I enjoyed doing it, and then
Yeah.
I got into psychology in college where I found this guy Stanislav Grof.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've listened to The Way of the Psychonaut, his
Okay.
book on
Yeah.
like that was like his magnum opus. Yeah, Stanislav Grof is awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
I
he's the
have
one
his
that
book
did like
Holotropic Breathwork.
holotropic breathing. Yeah, I was gonna
Yes.
ask. He's the breath work. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, I know
And
him.
so I
Yeah.
discovered through that through like his studies on holotropic breathwork that you can um like have pent up trauma in your body from your own birth.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I at that time like hearing that I was like, "What? You can
Hmm.
have your own birth trauma that you are completely unaware of and it just like resides in you."
Hmm.
And through the holotropic breathwork you can re-experience it and then heal from it.
Hmm.
But so that was
Hmm.
the first time I had ever even known that there could be such a thing as trauma from birth. Because I kind of think, and I could be wrong, but I kind of think that, like in our society especially, it's just like, oh, you're so young, you don't remember it. So anything that happens like before you can remember,
Hmm.
it's just kind of like it didn't happen or like it doesn't necessarily matter. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
you're so
Okay,
young.
yeah.
You won't even remember it. You won't even, you're not even really there. It's,
Hmm. Hmm.
just all this stuff. And so I remember just kind of keeping that in the back of my mind. And I remember anytime we got to choose like our own project, I was like got into like Timothy Leary like
Oh yeah.
just really just altered states of consciousness, and I was so interested in that, and just how can I get there? How can I, unlock that? And I don't know, can I talk about plant medicine?
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was a psychology major in college, kind of singing on the side, listening to music, whatever. And I did like shrooms for the first time. And that was just life changing, man. I felt like like the first time you have a psychedelic experience, you're like, holy shit, nothing's real. Time isn't real. I'm real. Or, like I see where I fit in with all living things, and I see the divine connection between me and everything else, and how perfect it is and how it all fits in. And I've just kind of felt like everything else was synthetic, like everything else in society was kind of
Hmm.
synthetic.
It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Matrix world. Yeah.
And
That's
so I
the
had gone
synthesized
through
aspect.
a rough breakup actually and was living by myself at this time. And so I just kept doing psychedelics by myself. I had never
Uh-huh.
really done them with anybody else
Yeah.
because I was
Uh-huh.
afraid of somebody else. I don't know, like, well, you feel so exposed. I was like, my
Mhm. Mhm.
soul is exposed right now.
Yeah.
And So yeah, I just never wanted anybody else in that world, and I would just do them by myself and sit outside and write music and listen to music and chain smoke cigarettes when I was doing that. When I was smoking cigarettes. And yeah, so that just, I was like, wow, there's more to life than we've been told. There's more. There's just more. There's another side of life that you can't see or feel otherwise.
Yeah.
And so then from there, all of these things kind of culminated into, I eventually was like, well, you know, screw it. If I'm going to live this life, like I'm going to pursue music because it's the only thing I want to do. It's the only thing that makes me feel fulfilled. And so I stopped working in restaurants, and I went and got a job at Sweetwater, where I met my husband.
Nice.
And a lot of other people. I met a ton of other musicians, and I feel like that was just 100% where I was supposed to go.
Nice.
And when I was supposed to do it, because I was then going into it just a more refined, more transformed, more grown-up person who understood the metaphysical then, and like was able to incorporate that into my music and write music in these altered states of consciousness, and where creativity, you are just so tapped in, and this wealth of creativity just flows through you, and it feels like it really is your soul being poured out onto the paper or poured out in melody form. I love singing and making music in that form. Will I remember it, or will it sound good out of that state? You never know.
That's why you gotta record your rehearsals.
Yeah, just you'll find that out later.
We should try to take some notes.
Yeah. I always write on them while I can. Yeah. When I'm able to. But yeah, and there's just something about that tangible, like pen to paper, that it's like cathartic in its own way. And yeah. So then Sweetwater, I met my husband, and it was so wild because literally when I met him, I didn't even really know him that well, and I just kind of felt like he was supposed to be my husband. And I remember I was like, I have to tell you something. And we're just like friends or whatever. And I remember I was like, I just feel like I have to tell you something. And I know it's going to sound so crazy though, so I can't tell you. And I remember he was like, then don't. Like, there's no rush or whatever. Like, you can tell me later if you feel like it's not the right time. Just don't. And so he was like a very good friend. And I found out he dabbled in plant medicine too. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I remember, like I just found out he was a singer and everything, and
a really good one too. I'm just gonna give him props.
Oh my gosh!
Like, you don't have to, but I will.
Well, I was going to. I'm biased, of course, because he's my husband. But like, holy shit! I remember we met. I told him I was a singer, and then I overheard him singing the one day, because I would always find ways to need to go over to his workstation. Like, we worked in the same department though, so I'd be like, oh, I just need to go over and find a serial number, or I just need to go do this. And I was coming up to the mezzanine where his desk was, in the Sweetwater warehouse at the time, and I overheard him singing, and I literally like melted to the floor, and I was just like, okay, I thought I sang, now you fucking sing. Like, I was like, holy shit, that's what you sound like? Oh my gosh, crazy. Yeah, so I was blown away. I was like, I'm unworthy.
Wayne and Garth, we're not worthy.
We're unworthy. No, but I was blown away, and I was like more in love. I was like, holy crap, you are like a force to be reckoned with. And then I remember we were just like good friends and hanging out all the time. And I remember he asked me one day if I planned on having children, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't really think so. Like, hadn't really ever thought about it though. And he said, you know, that's a shame, because I think that you'd make a beautiful mother. And I remember I was like, okay. I was like, I'll have all your babies. And I just like, well, and that's too how I knew he was the one, because I was like, I want to have your babies. I want to have all your babies, and marry you and love you. And then later on, I had like told him, I was like, yeah, the thing that I felt like I had to tell you was that I love you. Like, I feel like you're the one. And they say when you know, you know. And I just knew in the very core of my being, I was like, this is the one. This is the man I'm supposed to spend my life with. Didn't even know if he was seeing anybody. Didn't even ask. Didn't even matter. It was like, nope, doesn't matter. You're the one. I found you. Yeah. And it was really beautiful. And it was really cool too, because I had never really gigged or anything, or actually upon meeting him, it was like, because I want to say, where was it at? It was at like a tattoo place. You and I ended up running into each other and both performing that same event. I want to say you went first and then I went
was
with
it at the
Jerry.
Crimson Night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Crimson Night. We both like performed there together. I think back to back. So funny because I ran into you there too. And that PA system that I had was borrowed from Evan. So like I had never even gigged, never even knew how, I didn't have a microphone, I didn't have anything. And then he had kind of given me the courage to do it. And like, yeah, you can do this. Like you can borrow my PA. Here's a mic, here's a cable, here's a stand, here's everything you need. And so then I got into that and then just like started performing with him. And I was like, just everything had finally come together. And then, my stepdad started having a bunch of health issues. So this is like while Evan and I, the beginning of us, he had like, dude, it was something like 3 heart attacks in a year.
Holy crap.
And it was back to back to back. And I remember I was like, holy shit. And so he had to have like multiple stents put in his heart. And then after that was when my mom had the stroke. No wonder. Like just so much stress compounding. And I was like, this is huge. And I remember having conversations with them and there was just a very heavy reality of like, if one of them or both of them dies, what needs to happen? And it was like, okay, I need to then take in my younger brother and I'm going to need to figure out what to do with like their estate and figure out what to do with all their belongings and like get the siblings roped in and we'll figure everything out. And my like main objective through that was that tragedies are unavoidable. You can have a tragedy, and that's one thing. But hell is another thing. And tragedies can turn to hell real fast if not managed well. If you don't have like a rock, a pillar holding everything together. And so me being the oldest sibling of mine, I was like, I will be the one to hold it all together. I'll be the one to just keep my cool, prevent this tragedy from turning into hell. Which is when I was offered the opportunity to take the Joy of Embodiment course by Jill, who was on your second podcast episode, which is so funny because yet again, our lives are unparalleled. And I had told her, I was like, I don't think I can take it. Like, this is what's going on right now. And she was like, okay, well, if that's what's going on, then you need to take it. And in fact, I'm going to give you a scholarship to take this class and you need to take it. And so that was an 18-week course on unraveling trauma within the body, muscular holding patterns, basically deconstructing your entire life as you knew it to be and who you presented yourself as, like the masks that you wear to the people around you to remain in good standing with them so just chipping away at those layers of who you believe to be and versus who you really are and really just unraveling it all, putting your growth in a pressure cooker and just fucking going in, as you know. I mean, and you experience classes with her and no joke.
It's walking through the fire. But, like the good fire. It's been stoked and built for many, many years, many lifetimes, and has purified many souls before us. Yeah.
And as you said, it's like, I mean, it's not for the faint of heart because a lot of people can't handle those types of classes and don't and drop out. And because it's like we were saying, the more you're in them, the more you realize that most of you is dead wood and most of you needs to go. Most of it needs to be burned off and cut away. And it's like, is painful because you're like, well, fuck, who am I then?
Yeah. The thing you built. I mean, it's
like your safety net. You're
like a Burning
the
Man
persona.
effigy.
Yeah.
We like build a Burning Man around ourselves from the get-go. You know, and a good amount of it is put on us, like that teacher telling you, pulling you out after class, that's throwing wood onto the pile.
For sure.
And like as I'm doing my practice lately and like going through the fires, I've made this like mental mantra of like everything is fuel for the fire. Like whenever anything comes up, like if it's a positive thing, like if I feel good about myself or doing something, nope, fuel on the fire, burn
fuel
it
to the
up.
fire, yep, burn it all.
Or if someone says something good about me, fuel for the fire. If someone says something bad about me, fuel for the fire. Put it all in the engine. Everything's going into the gas tank.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
Because it's all dead wood. Like
it is.
Like talking about birth, everyone who's born is going to die. There is nothing we can hold on to. It's all going to be released back into the cosmos. These atoms will turn into another body, into another planet, star, whatever. It's all the same. These atoms have been countless humans, animals, plants.
Yeah, there is no Alejandro
us.
Soto. There is no Hailey Sturzenberger. It is all I am. It is all.
Yeah. When you get down
that was,
to it.
is, and ever will be. Yeah.
But on the flip side, this is real. Like what's going on right now is real. And there's always paradox in truth. And so I think it's really cool, like having you on this show and like getting to talk to you before we started recording about like the births of your children. And like lately there's been heart-wrenching death in my life. I mean, full disclosure, a friend of mine lost her grandma, and then a week later my friend's child was stillborn. And so like talk about tearing your heart open. Like it like I sobbed during my morning practice this week, like hard over that. But
and that's both ends of the spectrum too, because you said a grandmother and then a newborn.
Yeah, like
not even a stillborn.
Yeah.
It just wow.
And so
and we are not exempt.
Yeah, no, the same thing is going to happen to us. We're heading the exact same direction, and the time or hour is pretty much always a lot sooner than we think it will be.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to a friend, giving a friend of mine at 2 a.m. Alejandro truth bomb, and delivered that to her. I was like, I'm not gonna be DJing forever. You're not gonna be working your day job forever. Neither of us are gonna live forever. So in light of that fact, might as well try to enjoy it. Like nothing is real. It's all going onto the fire. We're all walking towards the grave, but it's also viscerally real. Like that I think that remembering that is what helps keep my heart open, and that's been the practice lately.
And love, and knowing that the more you chip away, like the more room you have for love, and that does have a ripple effect, and that is so real, and that permeates time and space, and and
so far beyond like what we can't even imagine. Like that show, I mean, I'm gonna be real, that show you played at the Crimson Night, I organized that. That was my show. I put me and my friend Sunshine put that together. At least I'm fairly certain, because it was
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, how else
you probably did ask me to do it.
So
that was like 6.
It was a while ago, yeah.
Because I want to say that was 2018. But that was right when Evan and I met.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that show that I put together helped to kind of foster your relationship and your love with someone with whom you helped bring light. And I had no idea
before then. I never,
And so to
you
just
were just this underpinning in my whole life, like the past decade and a half.
Like,
It was you
no
all
idea.
along.
Had no idea. You can't write this
So
shit.
wild. I know. You're so right,
Yeah.
though.
And I think like
Wow.
yeah, it's just so
Well, and
wild, and
seeing
that's
you
the
in high school
ripples
in that
going out.
band, like,
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. Wait, you can just fucking start a band and do it and book
Yeah, I guess
gigs and
so.
have fun with your friends. And it was so
Yeah,
inspiring.
you
I was like,
can.
holy shit, there's like real life people in my life doing what I want to do. And that
Yeah.
made it possible because that teacher planted that seed of impossibility, but it was like people like you, thank you,
Yeah.
planted that seed of possibility and like restructured like the garden, the fertile garden of my life, and like planted new seeds to grow. And wow,
Cool. Yeah, it's wild
that's
how it
so
all works
wild to
out.
think about. Because yeah, I think you're 100% right that it was you who put it on, because I think you did reach out to me, and duh, how else would I have gotten there?
Yeah, it was a real weird thing that went down. I think we did 2 shows up there.
Yeah, because I think I performed at them both.
Did you? I think you were just at one.
No, I think you're right. I attended the other because it was like an art gallery too, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And the first one,
Yes, I do remember
I
that.
didn't play at because I like wanted to be focused on making sure it ran right. I also didn't want it to like be about me. It was like, I'm trying to, I was trying to do a little more than like that. But the second one, I was like, okay, I want to play for this one. And everyone was like, yeah, man, you should. I was like, okay, I will.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think.
It's like taking me back to that time. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're so right.
I mean, just to
Wow.
throw another wild wrench in it, the person who did the flyer for that show, Grace Harmon, Jill Harmon's daughter.
Wow, yeah.
And I didn't know Jill at that time. I think you might
so
have
I've
connected
known
me to
her.
her. I think you reached out to Grace because you and her were friends in high
Yeah.
school.
Well, and we went
Grace
to grade
Yenser.
school together, actually. So I've known Jill.
Oh, okay.
Jill's known me since I was little.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
That's
just
funny.
more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
More interconnectedness to it all. Yeah, wow.
So you
Small world.
So you're a mom. You have birthed two
humans now.
2 humans. You want to get into that? Because, dude,
Yes.
your story is
So-
wild on this. Every story of human birthing is wild in my book.
It is. It's crazy. Every single birth is as unique as the person born and the mother giving birth.
Yeah.
So, so I was in this embodiment course, trimming off the dead wood. And then the last week of the course, I found out I was pregnant. And so actually, rewind just a little bit. In the course, it was over halfway through, we had to kind of sit in silence and wait until a word arose. And whatever the word was, you would know it when it hit you, because that was what you were going to dedicate your life to. And the word that arose for me was responsibility. Because reflecting on my little klepto days, I was very young in high school. We liked stealing things, gnomes, you name it. But I didn't take responsibility for my actions, and I thought I was invincible. I thought I could get away with anything. And then when that came back to bite me in the butt in the form of the law, I realized there is no, like, karma is 100% fair. Even if I'm like, oh, I'm not stealing from quote unquote real people, I'm stealing from businesses. Like, yeah, but you're still stealing and you're still cultivating that negative energy where, and so just realizing that, like, you have to take full responsibility, full accountability for your actions and your position in life and everything, because if not, you're a victim. And I was always a victim. I was always a victim of my circumstances, of anybody that I could blame other than myself for why my life. And when I was young, of course, issues that happened with parents and whatnot, there is a little bit of give, because it's like, well, I was a kid and I could not leave my circumstances because I was a child. But like how they say, you're not responsible for the things that have happened to you, but you are responsible for healing from it and moving forward.
Yeah.
And so the word responsibility arose, and I was like, that's it. that's the one. And so I aimed to dedicate my life to taking full responsibility for my thought, words, and deeds and how they affect other people and myself, because I am my own worst enemy at times and my own greatest abuser in my mind. And, you know, just taking full responsibility for every aspect of my life. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I remember Jill was like, well, isn't this the perfect opportunity for you to fully embody your commitment to responsibility right now?
I could hear that in Jill's
Yes.
voice. Like, what a wonderful chance.
Yeah. And
What
she
a
was
great-
so right.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
100% it was. And so I was like, yep, here goes nothing. And then a guy from the class reached out to me, Janosch, and he told me, he's like, yeah, my partner Alona, like she gave birth at home just like me and her mom, and like it was really cool, and you should talk to her about it and all this stuff. And at the time I was kind of like, yeah, that sounds fucking insane. It's like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I can do that. But I reached out to her and I was like, hey, you know, I was told to reach out to you. I heard, you know, you have an awesome birth story and I'd love to hear it. And so she sent me, she was on the podcast, the Free Birth Society podcast, which is so cool. It's just women telling their badass birth stories and they're all freaking cool. And so I listened to her episode and she talked about how she just went and got a kiddie pool, you know, put it in their sunroom, filled it up with water, sat in there, gave birth at home, and it was so cool. And just the way she described it, it was such a beautiful experience. There was no fear, there was no yelling, there was no like pain. And because before this, my experience with birth was like Hollywood. So it was like, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of pain, there's like a woman screaming, and I was just always told like childbirth, it's so painful, so scary, so all this stuff. And so that was like the narrative and the programming, I guess, that I had heard and had believed for so long. And hearing her birth story about how it was blissful and peaceful and just love soaked, and she just had her baby and she was there with her husband and her mom, and it was just this beautiful, peaceful thing, and everything happened on their time and didn't have to cut the cord and just like all this stuff you hear about. And I was like, I really want that. I really want that. I didn't know you could do that. That's so sick. That's so cool. You are such a badass. So I started meeting with her and speaking with her about it. And at this point, Evan was not on board. But like his mom's a cardiac nurse, and just a lot of people in our family in general work in the hospital. So they've seen the worst of the worst. And it's a lot of, what if this, what if that, what if this? And so I had told my parents, I didn't even say that I wanted to birth unassisted because I knew that would not fly. So I just kind of told people I wanted a home birth. And that was met with so much like scrutiny. It was very strange because I guess I just expected people to be in full support of like what I wanted to do. But what a weird thing to hope for, you know? But like it was met with almost hostility. It was like,
damn.
Well, what if you die? What if the baby dies? What if this happens? Who's gonna cut the cord? So funny. That was the question that I heard the most, like the least relevant thing ever. Like, well, no one. Excuse me. But yeah, I don't know. And so I was kind of like, okay, maybe I need to keep this to myself a little bit, because nobody, you know me, like I'm stubborn, and once my mind is to something, like I am gonna do it. I'm determined. I'm gonna do it. Nobody's gonna change my mind about this. And then, so this was like August 7th of 2019 is when we conceived. So so I'm pregnant all through the end of 2019 into early 2020. COVID hit.
Yeah, so you definitely want to do a home birth now.
No, seriously. And I think if it weren't for that, so I quit going to, because I was going to Parkview at first, and I was just like, this isn't helpful. They're just like drug testing me and making me feel paranoid. And like, yeah, if you don't pass these tests or whatever, like we'll have to get CPS involved, and just like fear, you're not capable, you can't do this. I don't know. I just felt like it wasn't helpful. I felt like none of my questions were answered. I saw a different person every time. I didn't feel supported. And I remember I told Evan around like 24 weeks pregnant, so like just a little over halfway, I was like, I don't ever want to go back. And he was like, don't. And I was like, nice. Thank you. And so I didn't, and I just like, I read this book called Sacred Birthing a New Humanity, and I just listened to every single free birth episode of that podcast I could possibly listen to educate myself on the ins and outs of birth and anything that could happen and everything. And I looked up like what were signs that I might need to transfer to a hospital or anything, and I felt totally confident in myself. And then so like COVID happened, so I'm like a month away from giving birth at this point. That it totally came as a blessing in disguise, because I was like, literally don't want to step foot into a hospital right now. And I don't know. I just kind of saw that as like my opportunity. I was like, okay, now I'm really determined to do this on my own. And long story short, basically, I did. And so I go into labor, and so my first labor with my first child was 24 and a half hours. So pretty long, but also they say it's longest with your first because your body's never done it before. So I was like, okay, yep, sounds about right to be expected. I had mentally prepared for a 3-day labor because I wanted to prepare for the worst. Oh, but another thing I missed. So when I was pregnant, I read this. There's a woman named Wapio, the Matrona. She's like a traditional midwife. And she wrote a thing called The Holistic Stages of Childbirth. And it goes into each stage of labor and childbirth and the altered states of consciousness and which like brain waves are active at that time, like alpha, beta, gamma, delta, theta, and like where you're at. And as soon as I found out if a woman is left undisturbed in labor, you can access these altered states of consciousness, buddy, I was all in. All in. I'm like, give me psychedelic birth. And I heard stories of women having these really psychedelic experiences. And yeah, oh my gosh, I just thought it was so beautiful. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do this. And so my first birth, it was pretty textbook as far as like, okay, now you're in this stage of labor and now this is happening. And now like we were looking at this packet. We had a packet of paper that was like early labor. This is what to expect. And we were just kind of going, oh, okay, that's where we're at.
Just checking off the boxes.
Okay, cool. And then the holistic stages were like, okay, this is what brainwave you're in. This is what brainwave you're in. And I could just feel myself slipping into these altered states of consciousness. I remember as like birth was approaching, I'm like looking around at all the lights in my room and I've got tracers and my pupils are dilated and I just feel like I'm like going up this mountain to reach the summit so that I can like retrieve the soul of my baby and head back down. And so there's a moment in birth, it's called transition, where they say it's like right before you start pushing, it's when contractions are at their most intense, it's back to back to back to back, and you are, if like you've been left undisturbed, like this is where you are on the other side. Like you are not in physical 3-dimensional reality anymore. You are in birth world, in the ether. And I just felt like I remembered, I say that God was my midwife. Like if people ask, they're like, it was just your husband and you? I'm like, well, God was my midwife, because I felt like I had joined hands with God in this transition, and I like reached up and like, yeah, just like joined hands with God and retrieved like the soul of my baby. And oh my gosh, it was just so fucking wild and trippy, and I felt like I was on acid. I was like, this is amazing, and like oxytocin's flowing and I'm just like feeling euphoric, and yeah, it was amazing. And so then I just like, at that point I remember then there's like it's called like the quietude. So when contractions stop, you get like a moment of rest. And they say that's when you are like at the top of the mountain and you get to look and see everything you've overcome. You get to look out and enjoy the view. Basically, you're like, I'm here, I'm at the summit. And then from there is what like they call like the breakers. So it's like the pushing stage. So I get like this moment of rest, and then I was expecting to have to push because I feel like in the movies it's like push, and then but it was almost like a dry heave, or like when you're throwing up and you don't have control over it, like you're just like like I was like, I remember Evan was something like, oh, do you feel like you need to push or whatever? I was like, yeah, I don't know. And then all of a sudden I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, my body's pushing. I think you don't have any control over it. It's called like the fetal ejection reflex.
Oh, okay.
It just does it on its own. You're just like along for the ride. So I was just like, oh, okay, we're pushing. And I just like was pushing and pushing. And that was like about an hour. I remember I got hung up on, it was COVID and it was all this stuff. And I knew that she like was going to come out, but I just like couldn't. She was stuck. And I knew it was me. And I knew there was just like something in my psyche that was not allowing this to continue. And when I finally realized that, I was like, you have to let her go. Like, you can't keep her in here. You have to give her to the world, for better or for worse. She chose this time. She chose you guys. She chose now. Like, let her soul through. And as soon as I like got over that mental battle, I remember Evan kept checking, because I was like, stop checking. I don't want to know how far I have to go. But like as soon as I got over that mental battle, he was like, she's crowning. And I was like, oh yeah. And then yeah, she just came out pink, crying. It was beautiful. We called Alona. She came over and like helped, and it was just
nice.
So fucking cool. And it was just him and I. And my whole and I missed a bunch of stuff, but so basically my whole embodying this, taking full 100% responsibility for like pregnancy, birth, labor, all of that, was because in my embodiment course, I found my mom in myself and her mother in my womb, and then talked to my mom about birth and everything, and found out that she had birth trauma, and like from giving birth to us. And then I'm like thinking about Stanislav Grof and how like we all have trauma from our own births. And so I took the full responsibility of birthing our daughter in the highest like vibrational frequency of love that I possibly could, to give her and me a birth that we didn't need to heal from, so that we could break that cycle of like birth trauma and like labor trauma. But so like in the entire process of labor and birth, the woman, also the mother, goes through the entire cycle of birth and death as well. And so like the maiden dies, and then the mother is born when your baby's born. And so that's an ego death for sure. Coming on the tail end of a psychedelic experience too, it is this ultimate ego death, because everything that you had believed about yourself or knew about yourself or the person that you thought you were is gone. And you have to start from ground zero, just as you have this new baby entering life for the first time, learning how to navigate the world. You also have this new mother who has just been born and has to learn to navigate the world. And so really I didn't know who I was anymore, especially with, oh my gosh, just the world was so crazy at that time and everything. And it was like, what is going on? Like, I can't even like bring my baby places, because it's like, things are closed, and it was just so wild. I remember I had a lot of guilt, and I was like, what the fuck have I done? Like, I brought this perfect being into this madness, or but it's like, that's life.
Yeah.
And children have been born under much, much, much worse circumstances and much worse times, and in war and in famine and in so it was like, you can bear it. You can probably bear it. But fast forward, Evan and I get married. We have a second one. And I don't want to go too long on my births for sure, because I do want to talk more music. But I asked for a firewalk of a birth. LOL. Don't know why I did that, but yeah, because I thought my first was a firewalk. I was like, no, I don't want anything easy. I want to be refined. I want to cut off more dead wood. I want to really put myself through it. And I remember, yeah, Evan was like, no, you don't. Like, I want an easy, blissful birth for you. And every night, like when we were putting Freya to bed, we would like pray before bed, and he'd be like, God, like, please give her an easy, painless birth and all this stuff. And I'd be like, God, don't listen to him. He knows not what he asks. So I was like, give me my firewalk. Give me my metamorphic transformation. Like, I want to be put to the fucking test. And I was like, I want to be decimated by this. Like, I can do it. Lay it on me. I can handle it. I want it all. Oh, man. And Evan was like, I don't think you want this.
This bitch crazy.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh.
You
for real.
Go through it.
Yeah. So fast forward to my labor.
God love him.
I know. Poor guy. He was really looking out for me. Me, fool, you fool. Yeah, so my labor started with her Tuesday, June 7th at 10 p.m. And then 3 days later, Friday, June 10th at 11:18 is when she was born. So I got a 3-day mind fuck of a labor. Like, it was such a mind fuck. I was like, this is taking forever. Thursday, I literally went to German Fest, was sitting down there in labor, eating a brat with sauerkraut, having a beer. Yeah, dude.
What?
Well, so my first labor with Freya, we were like at the store. I'm prepping all the food I can because I'm like, oh, I'm going to smash after I give birth. Like, I'm just making all this food. So at this point, I'm like, 2 days had gone by. I was like hanging out with my dad during the day because he was helping me with Freya, because I was like, you're going to have to take her when I'm like about to give birth, because I don't know how she's going to handle that. I don't know. And good thing, all things considered.
Yeah.
But
good to have people around.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be in labor for forever. I'm like, I'm not just gonna sit at home. God. So I'm like, Dad, can you drive me to German Fest? We're like at German Fest.
And he's
yeah.
like,
I
what's
had
he gonna tell you? No.
Totally. Yeah. He's like,
No,
well,
it's not gonna
shoot.
go
I mean, I
over.
guess just let me know let me know if you need to go home. And I'm just like sitting there through each contraction, like, yeah, eating my brat with my sauerkraut. And I like went up to the bar. I was like, yeah, I'll take a beer, I think. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, well, I'm in labor. Like, I think a beer would be nice. Yeah. And there's so we've actually, our family's like in the German Heritage Society, so we've always worked German Fest. So like, I know everybody down there. Like, it's, I know the police officers down there, and they're all like, are we gonna need to deliver this baby? And I was like, actually, no, because like me and my husband just did it the first time with my first one. So honestly,
no, we're good.
Honestly, you can just watch and learn if I start pushing. I was wearing a skirt. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll just like, I'm good.
No, I'm ready.
I'm here. I'm good. But then, yeah, contractions really started picking up. Maybe it was the beer. Maybe it was the sauerkraut. I don't know. But I was like, I remember I was sitting there like breathing through each one, and my dad's like, is it time to go? I was like, oh, yeah, we should probably go. Little did I know, I still had another, 24 hours?
Jeez, that's gnarly.
Well, and I think a lot of what like prolonged it was because it was going so long, so Evan kept going to work each day. And I felt like my body was like, well, yeah, you can't give birth now because he's not here. Because Friday, then I was finally like, hey, I think I need you to come home. Like, things are kind of starting to rev up. So he came home at like 3 as opposed to 5. And I remember as soon as he walked in the door, it was like my labor just kicked up a notch. Like, my body was like, okay, you're safe to birth now. And so from like 3 to 7 p.m., oh my gosh, it was just really intense back to back. And then it was just, yeah. I was decimated by this birth. So I'm like going on 3 days of minimal sleep. It was more of a mental battle than anything. I'm like, dude, I'm going to be in labor forever. This is insane. Like, what is going on? Like, knocking on my belly. Like, what's taking so long? Are you good? Are you good in there? And like, I mean, I was never afraid though. So there was never like, you need to go to the hospital or whatever. I was just like, yep, this is just what it is. This is exactly what I asked for, apparently. And yeah, so with her positioning, so she was forward facing. They call it like sunny side up or posterior. So it's funny. Everything that we were reading, we have all this like birth stuff. It was like, yeah, this is kind of how birth goes. And then there's always this disclaimer at the bottom. It was like, unless the baby's posterior, then good luck, basically. And we just kept reading this and we're like, and I was like feeling on my stomach. I'm like, yeah, she's not, like, she's facing the way that she's not supposed to be, quote unquote. Which, yeah, just makes for a really excruciating birth. So this one was not psychedelic bliss. This was tethered to the here and now, fully immersed in the pain that is this reality. And I was fucking floundering. I remember Evan kept saying, he was like, dude, like, you're killing this. You're like, you really holding it together. And I was like, so funny. Because in my mind, that's so far from what's happening. And then, yeah, I'll keep it brief. So I finally pushed her out. We didn't know it was a her. I thought it was a boy the whole time. We look, we're like, oh shit, hi, nice to meet you. Hello. And yeah, then I like go to stand up and blood just starts gushing out of me. And I'm like, I sit back down and it stops. I'm like, okay, that's a lot. And Evan and I just kind of check in with each other. He's like, is that okay? I was like, I think so. I feel fine. I just start chugging water. I'm like taking tinctures. Again, don't know why I kept trying to stand up. But I try to stand up again. More blood's gushing out. Situation quickly, I'm just kind of like, it's fine, but I don't know how long I will be fine. And should I start to like pass out or whatever, like I don't want to leave him. So I just kind of looked at him. I was like, yeah, maybe you should call an ambulance. So he did. And then the ambulance came and I remember I was just so fucking bummed because it was like, days have gone by and I finally got this baby and I was like, oh, I can go eat and lay in my bed and shower and it's gonna be so cool. And then it was like, nope, your firewalk's not over. So we like call an ambulance, go to the hospital. Luckily I'm not there for very long. I just need like fluids and to stabilize and no blood transfusion or anything. So maybe it like, I don't know, I don't want to say maybe it was unnecessary because I don't know. But luckily nothing too crazy. They only separated us once and they like gave her to Evan. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of okay with that. They did cut her cord, which I didn't love. And I was like, that's fucking stupid because my placenta hadn't come out yet. And like the baby, like breastfeeding is what signals through the cord to the placenta to undo. Yeah. Okay. So they cut it and I was like, you idiots. It's like now if she's breastfeeding, it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but it's like it doesn't signal. Just, yeah, you can't mess up that like hormonal matrix because any part like interruption causes potential issues.
Yeah.
The hospital was kind of rough though. I mean, I didn't want strangers at my birth seeing me naked, all this stuff. And then I go to a place that's all strangers and they're like, yeah, if you can't get this placenta out in 5 minutes, we're going to have to cut you open and like C-section and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, first of all, I literally just gave birth. Can you like, have you no reverence for the sacred? Like, do you see me right now? I just pushed a baby out.
Can we just chill for a minute? Like,
can we just chill? No, and then, I don't know. I mean, I won't spend too much time on that.
Did it work out? Like, I mean, you're here and like the baby is fine, so everything worked out. But
it worked out. I do regret that part because it was the interruption I didn't want. But like, yeah, I mean, we went home and it's like got home, there's blood all over the floor of the apartment and crazy experience. And actually I'm not super upset about the story that we got to tell because it was a wild freaking ride. I mean, there's a lot of I do actually have the story published in a book that goes into further detail. It's called Women of the Wild. This woman named Jenny Dice wrote it. Yeah, she reached out to me and was like, I'd love to publish your birth stories in a book to like inspire and empower other women that like, yeah, you can birth however the frick you want, wherever you want, whatever. And yeah, so I feel like, yeah, anyway, so that's why I kind of have this, I don't know, just, I guess a reputation of, you know, just like being a free birth mom or whatever, because it is different. There's not a lot of people who choose that route, and so it is kind of interesting when you find somebody who did, and it's like, oh, cool, yeah, that's pretty freaking cool. Yeah. And people are always amazed, and we love telling our story, Evan and I, because we're just like, yeah, we did it ourselves. Except the second one, but I fully got what I asked for. And yeah, my dad, so she's a redhead too. And it's kind of funny because they were telling us at the hospital, they're like, yeah, it's actually, we see this a lot in pregnancy and birth. Like, redheads tend to be, they said, problematic in pregnancy and birth. Like, there's a lot of, like, postpartum hemorrhage. There's, like, blood clotting issues.
Really?
Like, whatever switches on the redhead gene apparently turns on a bunch of other kind of medical anomalies as well. Interestingly enough.
That's funny.
And then she is our wild card. They say too, your birth foreshadows your life, like in how you're going to be. And you know, each and every day with both of our girls, seeing them, I'm like, yep, you are your births. Because, like, our first is very
funny.
in tune and independent and so creative. She's always like, Mom, I'm an artist. And I'm like,
hell
fuck yeah, you are.
Yeah.
She discovered, like, splatter painting. And so she's like, artists do this. And
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And so my oldest is 4. Youngest is going to be 2 in June. Yeah. And I feel
That's
like
cool.
just now, so I'm, like, figuring out who I am as a mother, and like just feeling like I'm not myself again, but I feel like I know who I am now. And so after all of this, I had to just kind of be like, who the fuck am I, man? I don't know. So I just got out a pad of paper. I was like, things I like. What do I like? Who am I? So I'm like, okay, I like music. I like singing. That hasn't changed. I like drugs, psychedelics. That hasn't changed. And so just seeing, like, what of me do I pull forward, you know, with this the mindset of motherhood and just everything that I've been changed by, and like how can I apply this going forward. And so musically, like, I released my first EP called Water Baby in 2019. So when I was pregnant with Freya, which is after that,
cool.
It was like March then of the following year was that, like, release show, which is why I was so pregnant when I did that show, because it was like, I don't know why I did it so far after, because I released it in December of 2019. I don't know, maybe just the holidays, or maybe that was when I could first get into the rail, but yeah, I did that, and then kind of went on a hiatus for a while, and I just was so creatively dry. I had no inspiration. I had no idea what to write about. Nothing. Severe writer's block. I was like, maybe I'm not even a music artist anymore. Maybe I lost it. Maybe that part of me died too with The Maiden. But after coming up with this list, I was like, okay, these are the things I like. And then I was like, yeah, like, unapologetically, that's me. Whatever friend or family, or mainly family, like, whatever they have to say about it. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers. I'm just trying to be who I am in this world, doing the things I like and love. Yeah. And so plant medicine just is one of those things. And it's like something that has, like, a stigma to certain people, but, like, the people who know, like, they fucking get it, you know? Like you just get it. And so I was like, okay, I like these things. And then as soon as I, like, accepted and understood that, I wrote the song Plant Medicine in, like, an hour. I don't know. It just like literally came to me, and I wrote this whole thing, and I showed it to my husband, and he was like, that's amazing. That's a banger. Can I be on it? And I was like, yes, I was hoping you'd ask. I was hoping you'd want to be on it. Second verse is yours. And so we released that. When did I release that? March 22nd of this year, I think.
Nice.
So that, and then I just released a song May 3rd called Fifth Dimension that I wrote with I wrote that and then took it to the Bee Colony guys and was like, hey, can you guys, like, add your flair to this? And they did not disappoint at all. Yeah. They did an amazing job. Yeah. But so I feel like I just found myself again, and it's like, it's going back to my roots of, like, psychedelics, altered states of consciousness. But now with, like, the rhythm and experience and growth and wisdom of motherhood as well. And like showing my children, like, yeah, you can be a mom and pursue your dreams and, you know, just do all this stuff. Because I didn't want it to be like, Mommy, why don't you make music anymore? Mom, why don't you do this anymore? Or whatever. Like, I want to integrate my children into my passions as well, and get them excited and get them involved. And I'll hear Freya in the backseat singing "Plant Medicine." I'm like, preach it, sister. So
that's
cute.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's really cool to hear, because our culture does put such it paints such a picture of what it means to have a kid, be a parent, and what it means to be let alone what it means to be a good parent.
Totally.
Like, and so it's neat. Like, I mean, Jill talks about expanding your capacity, and it sounds like that's what you're doing. Is through all of this, you've been decimated, and then had to
stretched,
come
just thinner.
Yeah, but then also having to come back to center, and that thread that is weaving your life from the birth that your mother went through to bring you into the world, that stretches out until the day you take your last breath and go on. Like that central thread is still intact. Like, you are alive. You are sitting in my living room right now. So the birth process didn't kill you. Fucking grateful for that. Like, because
oh my gosh,
how many people in the course of human history have not made it through that experience.
And there was that thought for sure. Because by the end, like, even when the ambulance got there, the blood just kept going. And Evan and I had this moment. It was like, are you going to be raising 2 girls by yourself?
Damn.
Maybe.
Damn.
Is that, like, your cross to bear, man? And I'm over here like, I can't fucking die. I got tiny people relying on me and a husband, of course. But it's just like, yeah, man. No one is exempt. They say the more acquainted you are with birth, the more acquainted you are with death, too.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone who's born dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. No escaping it.
No.
Might as well face it. In light of that fact, might as well try to enjoy the weaving of the tapestry of being in a human being body. It never, like, when I'm able to come back to the awareness that like I'm in a meat suit, it like that's a psychedelic experience right there. Just every time I come back to remember, like, realizing like the tactile experience of being a human, a Homo sapien, like, with this like amazing technology that I can record conversations I get to have with old friends in my living room apartment with plants, these other living beings that watch me as I do my morning Buddhist meditation practice, like, and get to share it on that. Like, that's I was listening to a podcast with a fella, Mark Pontius is his name. He was in that band Foster the People, then like left against the well-meaning words of everyone in his life. He like left a band that was like giving him the rock star life, because he like felt he had to do something else. But he was talking about like how the most psychedelic thing you can do, at least in his view, and I can echo this, is to bring that expanded conscious awareness that can be brought about by use of psychedelics, plant medicines, holotropic breath work, deep meditative practices, to be able to bring that awareness to the mundane, to me going to my day job and chopping how many onions, to you changing diapers.
It's the difference between the mundane and the divine is there is none. The mundane is the divine. It's all in your it's the mind fuck. It's the things that we place ourselves, or that are placed there for us, that cut that. And like something Jill said over the retreat last weekend that came to my mind, I think it was while you were saying something, was it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And so when it's all for you. Yeah.
All of it.
All of
The
it.
good, the bad.
It's the curriculum of the soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we're in human form. Might as well take the curriculum. Might as well fucking sing.
Might as well fucking sing. Might as well give birth however you want to. Because that was another thing with COVID. It was like fear. And I was like, I'm not going to live my life in such a way that I arrive safely at death's door. If birth is going to kill me, so be it. Like, I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah. I don't know. I was going to say that sounds so reckless, but like, you get it. Like, you only live once. So live. Like, I'm not going to, just, damn it. While I'm here, I'm going to experience the full breadth of reality. And if that's birthing 2 humans on my bedroom floor, like, that's fucking life, man. It is so cool. Yeah, they were born on our bedroom floor. So sick. Just us. We were like, this is fucking rad.
Yeah, and I want to meet them. I want to meet your little tykes. I haven't gotten the
you would
wonderful
love them.
Opportunity. I have a feeling that my grade school
they're
best
kindred
friend,
spirits.
my grade school best friend was a fiery redhead.
Yeah.
I've been telling stories about him and I hanging out back in the grade school days, and just like how he was absolutely insane.
She is insane.
But I was like so there for it.
Yeah.
His last name was R and mine was S. So we were right
nice.
next to each other in line. And I feel like our like friendship through grade school was like him like bouncing off the wall and me being like, yeah, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, we joke, like, she has no survival instincts, no self-preservation, throws caution to the wind. She is just...
That's awesome.
She's always getting hurt. Everything is near death for her. I'm like, Lord has found favor with you, little one, because somehow you are still alive today. But and it's funny, too, because I asked for this fire walk. I get a fiery redhead who's always getting hurt, and my dad's like, yeah, God gave you a redhead because he wanted you to have a constant reminder of the fire walk that you asked for. She is just our wild card.
That is so awesome.
And that's been so fun, too. Like, you have 2 people who created 2 humans, and those 2 humans are so vastly different.
Oh, yeah.
So different from one another. Like,
wild.
Freya's, well, she's now getting into other things, but she was, like, obsessed with dinosaurs. Everything was dinosaurs. So it's like, okay, my first one's like a velociraptor who's very considerate and in tune and calculated and sensitive to people's feelings around her, and, like, has this just great awareness and innate wisdom. And then, but like the contrary, the second one is, but she's into like all these crazy, she's like, I'm into trucks and excavators and dinosaurs, velociraptors, all this stuff. And then Nadia is like the opposite, like personality wise, she's not calculated at all. She's just a living miracle, really, just wandering around, bebopping around, doing her own thing, missing death every day. But she's like so nurturing. Like, she loves like babies and puppies and like little, just cute little baby animals. And so just seeing their interests, like, they're just so vastly different people. I'm like, wow, man.
Yeah.
Like, nature versus nurture. It's like there's a lot of nature.
Yeah.
A lot of nature.
Yeah. And that difference, I think, in my opinion, is the coolest part about being a human. Is that like each one is so vastly individually unique, but like we're also all still humans. Like, we all have these innate shared qualities and experience. We're all born, we're all gonna die, we all gotta eat and shit and
bleed
sleep
blood, and we all have to breathe, we need oxygen to live, and
so
we sleep every night. Well, we all need sleep. Some of us,
my uncle once said it's a good thing that not everybody is into this stuff that I'm into, because otherwise the things that I go to would be way too crowded. Like,
wow, yeah, that's so true.
And that one stuck with me, just like the little offhanded shit my uncle says.
Yeah.
Like the shit that people say to you that sticks with you. That was one of them.
I love that.
And because it's like, I may not be a huge fan of Taylor Swift, but by staying open-hearted and open-minded, I have played Taylor Swift songs with little girls in my vocal lesson room and been like, and I've honestly said, oh yeah, this is a really well-written song. Those chord progressions are pretty clever, actually. Like, Taylor,
Yeah.
whoa.
Cool.
This is a good track, like Taylor Swift
Yeah.
props. And like, I have not listened, I don't know what the song was. I haven't
Yeah,
listened to it
right.
since. I have not tried to look it up. I
Right.
have no desire to, but like,
That openness,
That-
like you
yeah.
said, remaining, like Jill would call it like a closed vessel or like an open vessel.
Yeah.
Like, are you
yeah.
being a closed vessel or are you being an
Uh-huh,
open vessel right now? And
Yeah. And like
trying to be an open vessel.
yeah, it's way, I mean, from the at first it seems way harder, because like when suffering and sorrow gets poured into your vessel, that fucking hurts. Like, and if
Yeah.
you're really open to it, it fucking hurts.
Mhm.
But also like that passes through, and then that same vessel holds the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen in your life
Right.
with your friend
Or like
sitting
now
next to
you have been tenderized and can
Yeah.
empathize with others who
Yeah.
go through that same
Yeah.
thing.
uh-huh,
And so then
uh-huh.
you become like a shoulder to lean on in that regard.
Yeah. And it was
Yeah.
the same vessel that was open to playing Taylor Swift with a
Wow,
girl who was
yeah.
into it, that was open to experiencing like the heartache of a friend losing a child.
Yeah.
Like, and recognizing that it's the same vessel has been a pretty recent development in my understanding of the world.
Wow.
But being able to put that into words is like a massive step forward in my own experience. And
Wow,
I am
yeah.
like so immensely grateful for it. Like all the,
Hell
like
yeah.
I think, Ram Dass says the heart breaks and light pours in.
Yes.
And that's it.
He's who I
man.
got Curriculum of the Soul from.
Yeah. I was quoting him too at that
like,
point. It's so
wow,
good.
yeah.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah. And
Like, don't you see? It's all so perfect.
yeah. Just the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm So
The good,
Hailey,
the bad.
where can people find you?
Sure. So I do have a website,
Oh,
HaileyMarieMusic.com.
cool. I haven't checked that out. I'm gonna have to check that out.
I need to update it.
I gotta update
I was
my
gonna say,
website, too.
I haven't said that I released a new song even on there yet, but yeah, so I have that website. My music can be found on all streaming platforms under Hailey Marie. Also plug for my husband, Evan Lee. He just dropped an amazing album as well, with the Bee Colony guys, and it's amazing. So
Really
Hailey
good,
Marie and
yeah.
Evan Lee
All of this stuff is
on
really
all
good
streaming
music.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to it. It's
Thank
all really
you.
good.
And then yeah, I'm also on Instagram at Hailey Marie 444. That's pretty much where I have like my link tree and post most
nice.
updates to. I don't have
cool.
any other social media. I
Mhm.
kind of wish I did so I could reach, more people, but it is a lot to maintain.
Oh,
so
yeah. I feel
Yep,
yeah.
we'll
I feel
just-
ya.
yeah, keep on keeping on, and
Nice.
that's
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'll link to all that in the show notes.
Okay.
So people can click to all
yeah,
that real easy.
that'd be awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I want to put your tunes in the episode. I put songs in each episode.
Yeah.
So when it's a person
Like the
who
Los
writes,
Lemons.
yeah,
Yeah.
I forget so often to give a shout out to Los Lemons. So thank you to Victor for letting me use that tune. If you
So
made it
good.
this far, check out Los Lemons. They're really, really cool guys. They don't play as much anymore. I know Victor had a kid,
Dude,
and so
Yeah,
he's doing
that's
that
it.
thing.
I feel like I more so want to be like a bedroom musician now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was actually thinking about the interview, the podcast episode that you did with Maisie, where you guys were talking about how there's like an expectation for music artists to like engage with people, or it's like expected that you're going to perform, but like there's not necessarily that expectation with like visual artists. But like when you are a visual artist who will perform and like get out there, it's cool and unique. And I feel like I'm having a hard time as a music artist with the expectation to engage and to perform, because I just don't have the bandwidth for it to book the gigs, to do the rehearsals, to whatever, because I've got little humans that cry when I leave and it's almost bedtime, or they cry when I leave anyways. I'm like, oh my gosh.
No matter what
I'm
time
so
of day.
loved. This is wonderful. But yeah, I'm like, I'm breaking hearts walking out the door. So
I mean, the first I've heard first 7 years of life is like the most important for a human's brain development. Like
yes.
those are the years
So a
that set you
child
up.
shares his or her mother's auric field for the first 7 years, and that's until that point they have their own.
Oh,
Isn't that
okay.
interesting?
I've never heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat.
So you share your auric field with your mother up until age 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's good for you to be at home and like, and
I love it.
Yeah.
I love
those are
being there and seeing
valuable moments.
They are truly raising me because they are more they are more joyful than I, and I am hoping to be there.
Aspiring to that childlike wonder. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's
sure,
so beautiful.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Sorry, I've talked so much.
That's what it's about.
Okay,
yeah. That's
cool.
what it's for. Like, really, I recorded an episode with, I'm blanking on her name, Regina Leffers. We, in the first episode, like, had technical difficulties. I can't remember exactly what went wrong, but the audio got fucked up. And so I had to go back the next week and re-record. She was so gracious and was like, yeah, come on back. But in the first recording, she asked a really good question. And she asked, well, Alejandra, why are you doing this podcast? And I was like, holy shit, that's... And
why are you?
I mean, it's...
Or sorry. I don't know.
I was going to start answering it because I'm a little upset that nobody got to hear it. It's initially... And like it's selfish. It's selfish reasons. I want to talk to cool people, and I feel that
that's cool.
Yeah,
but you give,
and then I get to share it with people. So I'm recording it, so it's not just for
platform.
me. Yeah, and that's really
cool.
it.
Like I'm so grateful for this.
Yeah.
I don't ever get to talk about myself. Half the time people ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, oh, the kids are great, actually. Freya's doing this. And then I'm like, wait, me? Yeah, I have no idea.
But you're getting back to that.
Yeah.
And so I think
it's
really cool that like we did reconnect a couple weeks ago and like are so cool. Totally clearly just like still kindred spirits and like that connection, that friendship we have is like still completely intact. I'm like so grateful for that and like to have you as a friend, like to be seeing each other and supporting each other along the paths of our life. Like that's real shit.
And have that continued narrative, because I was thinking, I'm like, shoot, you're like now outside of my family, like you're one of the longest standing people in my life.
Yeah,
like 14 years is a long time.
Yeah. That's for real. So I selfishly want to talk to cool people and feel like I do best socializing in one-on-one interaction. Because like in a group setting, just by the numbers, if there are 3 people, what is fair for the conversation is for each person to talk a third of the time. And as that grows, 10 people, each person fairly gets 10% of the time. But humans are different, and usually a gregarious person is in that group and ends up taking 70%. And like, because I enjoy just listening and want to develop my skills of listening further in group settings, I tend to just mostly listen. And so I don't end up like asking questions that I want to ask or like or that come to my mind in a group setting, because they're talking and other people have questions, well, I'll let them ask their question and it ends up being a good question and I want to hear the answer to most of the time. But when I want to get down to business and like shoot the shit with someone and ask like the questions I want to ask, I got to get them one-on-one. And a good way to do that is to be like, hey, you want to record a podcast episode? That's what our culture does when you want to sit down. And then I get like, I have been doing musical endeavors since in high school. You talked about Yet to Be Mute. Like I'm using the same recording software that we used to record in. So you are still in the basement back in the days. Yeah. Do you still play bass guitar? I don't really as much. I'm more playing 6-string, like singing and playing guitar. I've been practicing my soloing. I was soloing over an old Grateful Dead show before you got here, which was so fun. Cool. Love that. And learning to like emote and speak through the guitar has been. Because I'm curious really to see if down the road our musical paths will cross in some. Yeah, I'd be down. I think it'd be really cool. I would be too. Yeah, we'll I think so too. Plant that seed here now that it'd be. We'll put a pin on that. Collaborate on something. Yeah. Even if it's just like you coming up even if it's a song, sing for a cover song while I play the guitar, or we can harmonize together or something. Like That's
Literally
the
would
kind of
love
stuff
that.
I want to do. Like
Same.
with the music projects I'm getting into, like I only want to do and really am only doing things that I want to do and that I feel I'm going to enjoy and that
Mm-hmm.
the people that I invite to join me will enjoy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's where I'm at. We're at
right,
the hey, no
yeah,
more nonsense.
yeah,
We're doing life how we want to do it,
yeah,
making it happen,
yeah,
living our
yeah,
dreams.
yeah. So I got some gigs booked, and if we
Hell
find a
yeah.
tune that we both jive with, whether we wrote it or not,
Yeah.
let's do something. Yeah,
I agree.
because you gotta sing.
And yes. And just I kind of am thinking it'd be cool to do something with a smaller number of people, like,
Mhm.
because it's okay, then if you and I do something, it's just our schedules that we need to work with.
It's a lot easier that
Because
way.
working with like 6-7 group, like I've
Uh-huh.
been doing, it's like the Bee Colony guys and then Evan, and then we'll get like a sax player. So it's
Nice.
like there's just 7 schedules that need to line up, and that is and it's 7 musician schedules. Not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Not your everyday person.
We booked
9
a
to 5
show,
schedule.
so we just perform as like Evan Lee and company. So it's like me, Evan, some of the guys from the Bee Colony, our friend Peter Kloffenstein on keys, and then our
Yeah, I
friend
love
Logan
Peter.
Weber on sax. Amazing. But oh my gosh, we booked a show like 8 months in advance. We rehearsed twice. Thank God everyone in the group is
Yeah.
talented enough to where we can do that. But I'm like,
Yeah.
that's just how it is getting everyone's
Yeah.
schedules
Yeah.
together.
Me
So a
too,
small,
yeah.
yeah. So I like how we're working this out right now, but yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I would love that. So
Awesome.
yeah,
The seed is planted. All good things in all good time.
yeah.
It's been the motto for us getting together to
I'll
record this
water it.
podcast.
Yeah, and I'm so
yeah.
glad. I'm so glad this worked too.
Yeah, me too. This has been a really good
Thanks
one.
for bearing with me occasionally coughing.
That's the way it goes. It's all part of it. It's part of having a conversation with somebody.
A
Is
real live human.
Humans cough.
Doing human things.
Yeah,
and-
it seems like some people don't want us to remember that, but I want to remember that I'm in a human meat suit. It's a lot easier to orient myself in the world when I remember I am. This is the vehicle I'm driving. Okay,
This
yeah.
is me,
Okay.
yeah. This is it, world. Take it or leave it.
Well, that's good. Thanks for joining me, Hailey.
Yes.
Thank you, Hailey, for being on the show. Such a good conversation. So great having you. I once was with a meditation group, and the 2 people who hosted it said that the energy left in their home after we all had met and practiced our meditation together. The energy like resided in their home, and I feel that positive vibe is still here, man. I'm like, it sounds a little ridiculous. But I mean, it's legit, like imbibing the physical space with the heart-opening sharing of our experiences truly makes me more comfortable in my own home. Holy cow, this is pretty good. This is awesome. So thanks, Hailey, for being on the show. I appreciate your time and your willingness and to do it, to show up and to be open and honest about just human existence. I think it's really, really awesome. And it's all I can ask for out of a good podcast guest. So I'm going to try and get copies or get permission to use both of her songs that she's released. And so we'll see. I might put one of them at the beginning and the other at the end. I haven't made my mind up and I haven't organized that yet. But either way, I'll put Plant Medicine at the end of this episode. So enjoy this tune, Plant Medicine by Hailey Marie, featuring Evan Lee and I think the boys from the Bee Colony are on this one. Whoever the musicians are, they're all wonderful. They're all fantastic. Give them your support. Go listen, and I'll see you all next time.
Looking at the tiles on my bathroom floor, I see patterns that I've never seen before. Fractal figures drift like a sea. Sacred geometry just for me. Plant medicine
medicine. Got my pupils dilated, body vibrating, baby. I'm in unison with the universe as it breathes. Here I am again in the same room, but there's always something new to see. The threads of creation's tapestry woven in front of me. I have high perception, elevated thought. I hear sounds like music from the mouth of God, resonating off these tessellating walls as if they can talk. Yeah, sure, man-made alcohol, but when I wanna see the synchronicity of it all, you know, I reach for
Plant medicine, here I am again. I'll follow where you